Good morning, Florida Southern, and welcome to the New Show. I'm your host, Tyler Hillier.
And I'm your new host, Jacklyn Washington.
And we're here to inform you on the political happenings in America today. So let's not waste any time. Last week, Betsy DeVos was finally confirmed as the Secretary of Education with the tie-breaking vote by Vice President Pence, sending the Grizzly Bear lobby and others into a frenzy. But the Grizzlies aren't the only ones who should be afraid. Goodbye, public schools. Farewell. You're all about to be destroyed when Betsy rains hellfire from the skies on them for not teaching the Bible in every class. At least, that's what it sounds like lately. Now, while her Senate hearing was cringeworthy, it's not the end of the world, is it? Most people aren't sure what the Secretary of Education even does, but we'll hear more from our panel on what she means for schools in America in just a moment.
In other news, Netflix, the world's leading internet TV network, has announced the release of a new series titled Dear White People. Yes, that's actually the name, and it's scheduled to launch on April 28, 2017. As you can imagine, with the release of the show name and the trailer only, the internet is already on fire. It is a spin-off of the 2014 movie of the same name by Justin Simon, who will actually return to write and direct several of the episodes himself. The show will follow an African-American college student at a fictional, predominantly white Ivy League college and the troubles she faces as a black student at the university. The show came to be because of an incident at the school where white students were putting on blackface and dressing up as African-Americans for Halloween.
Now let's hear from our guest, Kara Donnelly, on what she thinks about some of these topics. Kara, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tyler.
So, Dear White People, it's already got some of the highest dislike numbers on the trailer for YouTube. People are up in arms over social media, and there's a huge divide already, and the show's not even out yet. So, Jacklyn, let me ask you, what do you think about this show or the trailer and what Netflix is trying to do here?
I'm not sure what they're trying to do. It seems that this whole community and this group of people have been calling for unity, and then they come out with this show, and it's kind of doing the opposite. It hasn't even come out yet, and there's fights on Twitter and protests and people deleting their Netflix accounts, and I just think it's creating more of a divide between the two groups, and there's no reason for it. It's kind of similar to the MTV video that was released a few months ago, Dear White People, stop doing this. I just think it's not necessary, and the show is about blackface, which I just don't see that happening. I didn't realize that was such an issue with the black community still going on. I haven't heard of blackface since vaudeville and minstrel shows like way back when. And I just think there's so many other issues they could focus on in a more tasteful way, per se, to get their point across than just doing this.
Kara, I know you have some opinions on this issue, so care to respond?
I think it's a good thing. I think what they're doing is no different than what they did at the Women's March on Washington. I think it's no different than the protests that have been going on recently with, the refugees and even Black Lives Matter. I think that blackface has been a problem, and maybe it hasn't been a problem on our campus or campuses around us, but at Duke University a couple years ago, there was an issue with blackface, and they had a problem. There was an Asian party, and they tried to imitate the Asian culture, and they called it a racist ramble or something like that. And I think that blackface is definitely a problem. I think it's no different than the protests that have been going on, and they're addressing a problem that is evolving.
To be fair to the show, I don't think the entire 12-episode series will be about blackface. But last question for both of you. Do you think this show is going to be doing justice and actually talking about some of the problems facing the black community, or do you think it's going to end up just being kind of gimmicky and antagonistic?
I hope so. I hope to God that it works out well and that it goes well for them, because I'm a little scared looking now as to just the tweets that I'm seeing, and like the creator of the show himself tweeted out when it came out like F white people, and I don't think that's a very tasteful way to get your point across. I hope that they focus on bigger issues, not that blackface isn't a big issue, but I hope that they focus on things that we can fix and move forward, and that it brings us better as a society.
I agree with Jacklyn. I think that I truly hope that they focus on the real issues that are going on in Black America and not just, the minor things that have been occurring or even blackface. They just focus on blackface. I think that hopefully they will focus on the bigger issues.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad we could end on a agreeing note. All right. Well, let's go over now to John for the Mock Minute.
As I am sure all the students are aware by now, this weekend is once again the famed Scholars Weekend. But I'm sure you're all bored about hearing that there will be some sort of concert in tutus or a video game truck or giant board games on the green. We all know the drill. So instead, I'm going to tell you some other things that will be happening on the campus this weekend and into next week. The musical comedy I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change premieres Thursday night in Buckner Theater and will continue through until Sunday, February 26th. The musical focuses on modern relationships from the beginning to the end, something we all can laugh about and learn from. And if you ask me, way better than babysitting ungrateful high school seniors who may or may not end up attending this wonderful school. Speaking of babies, Anna Escamani will be hosting a talk about Planned Parenthood and reaching out to those students who want to get involved with their volunteer operations. There will be a training session included in the session, so don't worry if you don't know how you can help, because they will show you. The talk will be held Saturday from 1 to 3 in the Hollis Room, and guess what? You can get a passport credit just for attending. Another great and easy way to get a passport credit is this Sunday brunch coming up. The Simmons Center will be hosting a brunch for faculty and students from 11 to 12 this Sunday, and will be serving a variety of food and beverages popular in the African American culture. So get out there and submerge yourself in new culture, eat free food, and knock out a passport program requirement. In case you weren't counting, that's 3 birds with 1 stone. Well, that's all we have for the Mock Minute. Back to you, Ty.
Well, that's all we have for you today, Florida Southern. Thanks for stopping by. And be sure to check back next week for the new news show. I'm your host, Tyler Hillier.
And I'm your host, Jacklyn Washington.
And I'm your guest, Kara Donnelly.
And remember, the buck stops here.